Hey, fifth graders, we are continuing with fractions. We love fractions. Yes, we do. We love fractions. How about you? Yes, we love fractions. We are dealing with subtractions with fractions and mixed numbers today. I'm going to have you start off with your whiteboard. I would like you to number your whiteboard 1, 2, and 3. The reason you're not seeing anything is because I am going to read a decimal to you. I want you to write this as a decimal. Are you ready? Number 1, 4 and 9/10. 4 and 9/10. Number 2, 84 and 3/10. 84 and 3/10. And number 3, 137 and 6/10. 137 and 6/10. Are you being honest and trustworthy? Do you have 3 decimals written down, or are you just sitting there? Number 1 should be 4 and 9/10. 2, 84 and 3/10. Number 3, 137 and 6/10. Go ahead and erase. This time I'm going to give you a fraction, and I would like you to write it as a decimal. Please write 37 and 4/100 as a decimal. Please write 271 thousandths as a decimal. And please write 2 and 19/100 as a decimal. Go ahead and pause your video as needed. Number 1, 37 and 4/100. You need a 0 in the tenths place. 271 thousandths. Everything comes after the decimal. And 2 and 19/100. Looks like that. All right, erase. This time, I'm going to write it as a decimal. I want you to write it as a fraction. I'm going to write it as a decimal. 49/100, please write that. This is going to be a mixed number. 2 and 8/100. And number 3, 17 and 4/10. Number 1, 49/100. 2 and 8/100 is a mixed number, so the 2 is written larger, and 8/100, and 17 and 4/10. All right, let's go ahead and move into your journal. We're going to begin today on page 163 for lesson 5-4. We are going to do an estimate and then subtract, just like we did in yesterday's lesson, but we are subtracting, so watch your sign. 4 and 4/5 is pretty close to 5. 1 and 1/5, we'll just call that 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. Our answer should be close to 4. If we end up with something like 7, we know, ooh, did we add instead of subtract? Now, the denominators are the same, so it makes it quite simple. We keep fifths the same, and we take 4 minus 1 is 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 and 3/5 is close to 4. Number 2, 3 and 1/3 is pretty close to 3. 1 and 2/3, let's just call that 1 1/2. 3 minus 1 is 2, minus another half is 1 1/2. So our answer should be close to 1 1/2. The denominators are the same. That's awesome. So we keep thirds the same and we just go ahead and subtract. But watch out. I cannot take 2/3 from 1/3. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to borrow 1 whole from the 3 and make it a 2. I'm going to turn that fraction into, or that whole number into a fraction that equals 1 whole. I'm going to keep thirds the same. I don't want to have to find a common denominator, so 2 3/3 is the same as 3. I'm going to add that to what's already there, and now I have the larger fraction on top. I want to see that work when you take your picture, so if you haven't done that, do what I'm doing. I'm not doing it for me. Now I can take 4 minus 2 is 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Number 3, 9/10 is pretty close to 1. 8/10, it's pretty close to, I'm gonna call it a half. Our answer should be less than a half because 8/10 is pretty close to 1 whole. Or you could say 1 minus 1 is 0, either one. 9/10 minus 8/10. The denominators are the same, so all I have to do is subtract my numerators to get 1/10. Yeah, that's pretty close to 0, isn't it? Number 4, 3/4 is close to 1. 1/3 close to a half. So 1 minus a half, my answer should be probably pretty close to a half. Now I'm going to write it vertically. So much easier. I'm going to just multiply the denominators times each other to get a common denominator. Here they multiplied by 3 to get 12, so I'm going to multiply the numerator times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 gives me 12, so I'm going to take the numerator times 4. 9 minus 4 is 5/12. The answer 5/12 is very close to 1/2. 6/12 would be the same as a half. Let's continue down the page. 3 1/3 is pretty close to 3 minus 1 1/2. Well, 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 minus a half would be about 1 1/2. Now I notice my denominators are not the same, so I'm just going to multiply them by each other to get 6. Here they multiplied by 2 on the denominator, so I'm going to multiply by 2 on the numerator. 1 times 2 is 2. In the bottom fraction, they multiplied by 3, so I'm going to multiply the numerator times 3 to get 3. But no. I cannot take 3/6 from 2/6, so watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to borrow from the 3 and make it equal to 2. My denominator is 6, so I'm going to change that fraction to make sure it's 6. I borrowed 1 whole, so if I put the same number on the top as I did the bottom, that fraction equals to 1 whole. Add it with what's already there. 2/6 plus 6/6 is 8/6. Now I can subtract. 6 still stays the same. 8 minus 3 is 5. 2 minus 1 is 1. The answer is 1 5/6. Number 6. 10 1/5 is close to 10. 4 2/3. I'm going to call that 4 1/2. 10 minus 4 is 6, and then take 6 and subtract half from it. My answer should be close to 5 1/2. My denominators are not the same, so I'm going to write them out. And do you know what happens? The first number they have in common for multiples, the first common multiple, is just taking the two numbers times each other. So 15 is going to be my common denominator. Change them both to 15ths. First one, they multiplied by 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3 on the top to get 3 15ths. On the bottom, they multiplied by 5, so I'm going to multiply by 5 on the top. 2 times 5 is 10. I'm not done yet, because I can't take 10 15ths from 3 15ths. You knew that. So I'm going to borrow 1 whole from the 10 and make it a 9. I have 1 whole that I'm going to make into a fraction. I know that my denominator should always be the same, so I'm going to put 15ths on the bottom right away. I'll put 15 on the top because 15 15ths is equal to the 1 that I borrowed from the 10. I'm going to add that to what's already there to get 18 15ths. Now, my denominators are the same, and my numerator on the top is larger than my bottom fraction. So 18 15ths minus 10 15ths is 8 15ths. And 9 minus 4 is 5. 5 and 8 15ths. Moving on to the next journal page. Subtraction with fractions and mixed numbers continues. It says fill in the missing numbers. 5 and 1/4. They just want you to borrow 1 from the 5 and make it 4. And then that whole number that I borrowed 1, I'm just going to make it equal to 4 fourths. I'm going to add it to what's already there. 4 fourths and 1/4 is 5 fourths. Next, they already borrowed from the 8 and made it a 7, and then they took 9 ninths and added it to this to get 16 ninths. So we're left with 7 and 16 19ths. C, it looks like they added 6 6 to this. So that means they had already borrowed 1 whole from the 4. So if they borrowed 1, I'm going to have to add it back in to show what they started with, which was 1 more than 3 is 4. Number 2. My estimate, 7/12 is equal to 1/2. And actually 3/8 is pretty close to half. So my answer is actually going to be pretty close to 0. Now I'm going to write this vertically because it makes my life so much easier. This time I'm going to write out the multiples, and I'm going to take the first one they have in common. Ding, 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 ding. I'm going to change each one to 24ths. Here they multiplied by 2 on the denominator, so I'm going to multiply by 2 on the numerator. Here we multiplied by 3 in the denominator, multiply by 3 in the numerator. And guess what? Yes! The top fraction is larger than the bottom, so I can subtract. 14 minus 9 is 5, and the 24ths stays the same. 5 24ths. Number 3. Jake has 2 pet guinea pigs named Fluffy and Scruffy. Fluffy is 8 1/8 inches long. Scruffy is 10 1/4 inches long. How much longer is Scruffy than Fluffy? So we're figuring out difference. So we're going to subtract. If you're finding out how much one number is larger than the other, we subtract. So we always take the larger number first, so 10 1/4 minus 8 1/8. I'm going to put D for dog, the variable, what we're trying to figure out. Estimate, I'm just going to say 10 minus 8 equals 2. I'm going to say he's about 2 inches. Now, I need this white space over here to rewrite this. And I want you to rewrite it, my friend. Yes, get that pencil out. Over in this blank space, take 10 1/4 minus 10 1/8. Denominators are not the same, but I know that I can easily change this one to eighths and not even have to touch the other one. So here they multiply by 2 on the bottom, multiply by 2 on the top. What's 1 times 2, fifth graders? Yeah, the larger number is on top. 2 eighths minus 1 eighth is 1 eighth. 8, 10 minus 8 is 2. So dear Scruffy the guinea pig is 2 and 1/8 inches longer than Fluffy. Number 4. Rachel is traveling by plane zoom, from Chicago to San Diego. The flight will take 4 1/4 hours. The plane took off 1 2/3 hours ago. How much longer will Rachel be on the plane? How much longer? We're figuring out the difference. So we have to take the 4 1/4 minus 1 2/3. And that's going to be how long she has left in her flight. The estimate, 4 minus almost 2. She's got about 2 hours left. So I would suggest if you're on Delta Airlines and you have a screen in front of you, watch a movie or read or write a letter or talk to the person next to you. All right, I'm going to use that white space off to the right and rewrite it. 4 1/4 minus 1 2/3. I'm just going to take the denominators times each other because I actually know that that's the first number they have in common anyway. So I'm going to change it to 12ths. 4 times 3 is 12. So here they multiplied by 3. On the bottom fraction, they multiplied by 4. Uh-oh, the larger fraction is on the bottom, so guess what? I have to borrow from the 4 and make it equal to what? To 3. I'm going to take that whole number, turn it into a fraction that has 12ths as a denominator. I'm going to add by making it 12. 12ths is equal to 1 whole. Add that to what's already there. 3 12ths plus 12 12ths is 15 12ths. Now I can subtract. 15 minus 8 is 7 12ths. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So she's got about 2.5 hours left. We'll do one more, and we're going to do number 6. Number 5, you can put a little X through. Estimate. 9 minus 4 7/8 is pretty close to 5. So we say our answer should be close to 4. Okay. Now I have 0/8 up there. They're not going to write 0/8, but there's no fraction. So what I'm going to have to do, what am I going to have to do, 5th graders? What have we been doing all along? We're going to borrow from the 9 and make it equal to 8. What denominator should I use? Oh, you're so wise. Use eighths. Just make it equal to 8/8, because 8 and 8/8 is the same as 9. Now I can subtract. 8 minus 7 is 1/8, and 8 minus 4 is 4. Way to go, mathematicians.